If you're broke and you don't want to be anymore, I'm going to read you some stats that are going to blow your mind, and then I'm going to give you 6 steps so you don't have to be anymore. The average American has a literal negative net worth. It means that babies are richer than people who are not babies because babies haven't gone into debt. Number 2, the average U.S. minimum wage employee will make over $1 million in their entire lifetime in earnings. And if you were the median of U.S. income, you would earn $3 million over the course of your life. So the reason staying poor is the decision is because you know as long as you continue to work, you are going to make $1 million, millions of dollars. And most of the time, it's going in places that don't make sense. So challenge number 1 is the buy nothing challenge. It's very simple. You just buy nothing. So disconnect your credit card from Amazon. Leave your wallet at home when you go to work. Have no way to pay for stuff. You have your gas, you have your insurance, rent, car payment. Buy food at discount grocery stores. You pack your lunch. That's all. If you buy nothing, and as austere or hardcore as my recommendations may appear, I do not ask people to do things that I haven't done. And so like when I was taking $20,000 a month, me personally, I was in a house with 6 roommates, and I split my bedroom with 1 roommate. And so, 2 beds, 2 dudes looking at each other like every night. When I was making $1 million a month, I was living on less than 15. And so the key takeaway that shifted how I thought about making money and more importantly, keeping money is that wealth is actually a ratio between what you earn and what you need. And the number 1 rule of money is spend less than you make. And so I always like being super, super conservative with my expenses relative to what I make because I don't like spending money and I feel like I need it. To view the 3 YouTube odd commenters who think that this is a prop set, you get this look out the window. It's all AI. The first thing you have to do to become wealthy is that you have to decide to become wealthy, and you have to decide that it's under your control. You have to switch from victim to victor. So as much as you may have had a disadvantage, or maybe you got into debt or you made a poor decision, you have to be the person who's most powerful in your life around money. Now the third thing, and this is the one that really kills me, is that in the US, 35% of every paycheck goes towards paying one thing. You know what it is? Banks, lenders for debt. 35%. That's because people don't think about their mortgage as debt. They don't think about their car payment as debt. They don't think about their credit cards as debt. There's a reason that banks are 100+ years old because they don't go out of business. They make so much money on money. Money is their product, and you keep buying their money from them at a bad price and at a compounding price that goes up every single year. And most people don't do the math on compounding, but like right now, so many people are trying to get 10%, 9% returns in the stock market, but their credit card's 24% against them. And so the easiest thing you can do right at the beginning will pay off the things that are guaranteed 24% negative returns. They're guaranteed. It's amazing. They're guaranteed returns against you being wealthy. Compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world according to Charlie Munger. And you want to face off head to head against the 8th wonder of the world against your goals. Bad idea. So the thing is that if you're earning enough money and then you have the right habits, being broke is a temporary status. So step 1, save for an emergency fund. And so these steps are similar to Dave Ramsey's baby steps because I think he's proven it 100 times over and it's worth modeling success. So number 1, save for your emergency fund, which is basically between $1,000 and $5,000. The reason that some people don't hit their savings goals is because something happens, right? And so it's like, have an emergency fund for when your AC breaks or when your carburetor needs to be replaced. And the thing is that things that are unexpected, you can expect them to happen. You just don't know which one it's going to be. Because if you look at a year, it's like about once a month you'll have something unexpected occur, and you know it's going to cost you. And so it's just preparing for the expense, not which expense it is. Well, what about like debt? Should I pay that off first? No. Learn to save money first. Just watch the amount go up. Get to that later. Well, I say this because I'm not trying to make your life difficult. I'm trying to tell you what I did to get here. And for those of you who find that useful, you can model whatever you want. That habit has stuck with me. So even when I was making $1 million a month earlier on in my career, our rent was $1,200 a month. So then we'd ball out and get appetizers and we'd get the bang shrimp at Bonefish. So, shout out to Bonefish. I tipped like $100 for felt like a rich guy. And so I say this because some people just immediately change how they live when they make more money. Even the fact that I was able to start at 23 was because I saved every dollar I made. So like a $50,000 saved up. It wasn't like I was making crazy money. I think I made $55,000 or $60,000 I think my first year out of college. And then I made, I want to say 70 or 80, something like that the next year. And I saved 50 after taxes. So I'm going to show you something really quick. If you have a $200 pair of Jordans that you really want to buy, now you might want to buy them today, and let's say you're 25 years old. You're like, I deserve these, I worked really hard for them. Okay, fine. But that $200 invested just in the S&P 500, we're not even getting to S&P 500, I'll talk about that later. Between now and the time you retire, do you want to know what that actually is? Yeah, $200 pair of shoes. And we're going to give it 40 years. We're going to make our return 9%. Additional contribution, 0. Instead of buying that $200 pair of shoes, when you were 65, it could be over $6,000 if you just invest in the S&P. So if you wouldn't buy those shoes for $6,000, then maybe don't buy them today for 200. When you buy Jordans, there's no upside. That money is gone. It's just $6,000 that it could have been something that's just going to be zero. And that's a big loss when you do it over and over and over again. But like $6,000, $7,000, don't take a lot of those to add up to $1 million. 130 of those purchases is $1 million. You probably do that in a couple of years. And so that's personal risk. Now, business risk, if you take good business risk, there's upside. The thing is that sometimes you can't take this business risk because your personal risk is too high. And so for me, my whole life, I've tried to jam this risk as low as I possibly could so that I can go on the offensive on the business side. I saved as much as I could when I had my job so I could start a gym. That was a big risk. But I lived almost nothing in Baltimore so that I could take that swing. And if I hadn't had the basics there, I would not have been able to take that shot. And I sold those businesses that lost everything 2 more times. If I hadn't had to go into debt just to live, then I would have never been able to take those second and third shots. And so the whole point is, it's like, you will increase your shots on goal by living risk-free or low risk in your personal life. You'll be able to fail more. Like, I failed more times than you. I'm telling you, I had 9 failed businesses, I have 7 failed partnerships. Like, I have many failures. But the only reason I can get back up is because I don't have this big thing that I have to take care of. It's like, I know that I can live on peanut butter sandwiches and egg whites, mixing protein powder from the gas station with water. I can do that because I've already done it. And I've lived back. Shit, so I have rules on them right now. Like, I've had these sort of, like, I like them, they're fine, they're perfect. And so I can live with almost nothing, and it doesn't bother me because I know how I was pretty content when I was born. I'm pretty content now, right? Like the game more now. So I'm bringing all these points up because saving money won't make you money, but it will allow you to think further out and make bigger bets, which absolutely will make you more money. If I had not done that, I wouldn't have a gym. If I hadn't done the gym, I wouldn't have done the gym turnaround business. If I had done the gym turnaround business, I wouldn't have done gym launch. If I did gym launch, I wouldn't have been able to do Prestige Labs. Prestige Labs, I would have been able to sell those to Allen. From there, I wouldn't be able to do acquisition.com. So like, it sounds small, but it's a tiny domino that you could control. All right, step 2, which is you can begin paying off debt. There's 2 ways of thinking about paying off debt. There's a logical way and a psychological way. I would recommend the psychological way. So let's say that you've got 3 different, cards that you owe. You've got one that's 20%, one that's 15%, one that's 10%. Okay. Logic would state that you should go after the 20% one. Psychology would state that you should go after the one that you can pay off fastest. So my recommendation, despite the fact that the math would say, oh, I should pay off the bigger, the one that cost me the most first, you're going to pay them all off eventually, and you've been dealing with all 3 of them for like years now, so chill. Maybe just follow the process, which is get a win faster. That's the whole point. And so pay them off in reverse order of speed of paying them off. So it's like, boom, I knocked one out. Boom, I knocked one out. It's like you want to have those little like jackpots. You want to organize them so you have more of them sooner in your process. Now, if the one that you have the highest interest on is also the fastest speed to pay off, then definitely that's a double win. Like you can have like 3 quick wins and you're just waiting like 9 months to do that because you have to pay this big debt off. It's like, just get the win. And to be clear, when I'm talking about paying off debt, I'm talking primarily on consumer debt and credit cards and things like that. The debt that we're not going to deal with you is going to be like house debt, like your mortgage debt. If you have a car, I would recommend getting rid of that and trading it down. The easiest way to pay off your car is pay off a cheaper car and trade in the one that you have. You're living beyond your means. It's just that you thought your means were higher than they are. But that's okay. That's why you're watching this. I want to give you one mental image that should hopefully drag through why this is so important. So you're going to save about $10 a day for you to get $1 million in 40 years. So the math is $250 a month that you would put away. If you compound to 9%, then you can get $1 million in 40 years. That feels so easy to do. The only thing easier is not doing it. And if you were to just put $500 a month away, at $500 a month, you'd be at $2.1 million in 40 years. Now, to be clear, most people can live on about 4-ish%, and that's with never touching the principal. At some point, you can start unwinding it and spending the money, right? And at 4%, which is a very safe amount that you can spend off that, you can live on $80,000 a year. This is the gamification that I want you to think about, which is that for every $250 that you save every month, it's $1 million in 40 years. Just basically just use that as your math. And you're like, wait, so if I save 1,000, you're like, right, that's 4 million. You're like, I save 2,000, you're like, that's 8 million, right? And so the thing is that's where you're gonna get into this game where you're gonna be like, Fiji water, you're like, screw Fiji water, right? Like, I'll use the spigot in the back. Now, if you're watching this, you're like, well, then didn't you spend all this money on this? Yeah, there's levels, right? But we got to get from level 1 first, which is we got to spend less than we make. We got to save what we're keeping. Okay, step 3 is you're actually going to kind of like double down on step 1, which is this: is that you expand your emergency savings. $1,000 to $5,000 is not real emergency savings. That's like just to prove to yourself that you can learn how to save money. The real emergency savings is really having like 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up. So you can just like leave it in an interest-bearing account, which there's plenty of places that would be 5 or 6% at least today. Making in this video on the money you put in there. The magic of this is that when you put that cash there, your level of anxiety around everything else in life will go down. And this will then snowball in being able to actually take your eyes from paycheck to paycheck and look up. Then this is where saving money makes you money, is that it allows you to see the opportunities around you because you actually can go on the offense. Now, to be clear, we're not going to invest this money. This money is just your brick of safety that you always have because you don't know what's going to happen next. So that seems the way to step forward, which is eliminate risky spending. So if you have a car lease, turn it in, all right, and then buy a $5,000 clunker. All right, so 5 grand, 10 grand in cash. Again, we're at step 4 now. All right, so you've already saved some money. You've learned how to save. You've paid off some debt. Now trade that thing in. My dad owned every car we had in cash, and all we had bought used. I think my first few cars all had over 100,000 miles. That was just how I thought everyone bought cars. So negotiate, look for a car that's 100,000 years old, look at Carfax, try to have something that has low insurance and low repairs. And a lot of that stuff you can look at average cost of repair by different vehicles. Next thing is if you have multiple cars, downgrade to one. I mean, Layla and I lived with one car for years. I did a great story, but I haven't told the story forever. So the first time I drove up to a gym lunch event, so we had, I think, like 30 or 40 customers at the time. We had an event for all the gym owners to come out to. This was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where Layla and I were living cheap at the time. And as I pulled up at Layla's car. No, it was our car because there was no other car. And it had a crack in the windshield and a dent in the door. A group of gym owners see me, and one of the ladies who's in the group was like, "Honey, I thought you were supposed to be rich." I was like, "Oh, you should see my bank account." I know what game I'm playing. The game you're judging me on is a stupid game. Now, if you have kids, maybe there's considerations there, but even then, like, is there a way that you can just use foresight and say, how will we share one car? Because there are many families that do have kids and just share one car, and so if they can do it, so can you. And what you're doing is you're paying for convenience, but that convenience is costing you, remember, $500 a month. What's that? That's $2 million. That's what that convenience is. Is it $2 million worth it? Probably not. And so what I want to push on is like, what's your vice? Some people, like, they love going out to eat. People love shoes. That's guys and girls, right? Some people love clothes. Some people love vacations. Some people just like live in a neighborhood that shouldn't be it. You've got to look at how that translates into time and translates into future money. So those are the two big measuring sticks I want you to use. Is if you can translate all the stuff you have. So like that car is a $600 a month lease that you have, right? That means that, let's say that you make $100 a day, right? So it's $12.50 an hour. Okay, let's say that's post-tax. So you're at 15 or something like that. Okay. That means that if you work 4 weeks a month, 22 days of work days in a month, you're working 6 of your 22 days for the car that you drive to work with. Okay? Like, people aren't translating the money into the time. And let's say that you spend, $1,200 a month on your lease, maybe or wherever you live, right? Okay, well, now you got 12 days. So we got 6 and 12, right? 18 of our 22 days. No shit, you don't have much left, right? It's like, how much of each of these days am I using up to just do my fixed costs? And these are the ones that you can completely jam down. The only thing that people hate is your ego. And when I said earlier that I'm not going to ask you to do something I haven't done, I was a white-collar consultant who saved for $50,000, and I had a condo. And I then got rid of that, and then basically moved into my car, drove across the country, didn't have a place to live, had a guy, like, basically allow me to rent my bedroom for $400 a month, and then I had my gym rent, which is $5,000 a month. I was like, Jesus, I'm not taking any more rent on. So I lived in my gym. I lived on zero. I wasn't homeless. I lived inside my gym. Like, it was fine. It was just not legal. I had a client say, like, "Oh my God, you should be taking better care of this car." And it was like dirty, and I hadn't like washed it or whatever. That tiny action was representative of hundreds and thousands of smaller actions that helped me get to where I'm at right now. And so I'm very grateful for that man at that time who was willing to take that sacrifice for me to do what I can do now. So a great question that I have for you is, what are you willing to give up to be a millionaire? Rather than what are you willing to do? Because a lot of times in the beginning, it's about elimination, not addition. The people that you're going to get out of your life, it's the expenses that you're going to get out of your life, it's the posture, it's going to be the showing off. If you aren't willing to sacrifice anything to become a millionaire, you never will become. The doorman in my building started following some of these steps, and he went from having a $600 a month lease to buying a car in cash that he now owns. That's a big downgrade from what he had, but he's paying off his debt. And now he's like, just seeing every month my debt go down, it's like, it's so like reinforcing. I was like, yeah. In my company, when I found out that some of the highest earners were living paycheck to paycheck, I would talk to more of them about this. I really wanted to figure out what it was. And so what was interesting about it was that the people who were the wealthiest, the ones who had the most saved up, the most invested, were not often the highest earners. Again, it's this misconception that people think that they make a lot of money, have a lot of money. And oftentimes that's not the case at all. And I don't know about you, I would rather be underestimated for how much money I got. And so the real question is, do you want to look rich or do you want to be rich? And I think a lot of you guys, if you're being honest with yourselves, want to look rich. You want people to give you daps for being rich. You don't actually want to have the security. Me, I'm actually very risk averse. I hate the feeling of needing money. I hate the feeling of needing money more than you do. That's why I did everything in my life, so that I wouldn't have to feel that way. Real talk. Your tolerance for poverty is higher. You've accustomed to that feeling. You're willing to deal with that stress. Yeah, I'm gonna be clear. If you've got a family, things like that, that's just a spouse conversation. Like, okay, is this the neighborhood we need to be in? We carpool. Like, you have to be real about this. And you're not going to keep up with the Joneses today, but you will pass the Joneses eventually. If you want to look rich long term, the best way to do that is to actually be rich. because you will be stress-free. We're less stressed about money. And I think that does have a material change in how your life feels. So I'll just read you a quote from Charlie Wood. He said, the first 100 grand is a bitch, but you got to do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere, not eating anything that wasn't purchased in a coupon, find a way to get your hands on 100 grand. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. Now, mind you, he said this years ago, so it's probably closer to $150,000, maybe $200,000 today. And so I say this because you want to make it fun. And so I gave you my little story about the doorman earlier. Put it on an Excel sheet. If I save this much every month, if I save this much every month, you see how quickly you can knock it down, right? So the next one is around mortgages. If you're renting, you want to downgrade to something that's cheaper, as cheap as you possibly can. If you have a mortgage that you can't afford, harder to get out of that. And so you can refinance if the rates are lower. If they're not lower, then you want to try and get a 15-year fixed. And that way you can just try and pay it down as fast as possible. The idea is that you just want to pay the house off. And now we don't have to worry about it unless the government comes after you for property taxes. Well, I can tell you that living in a cash paid for house is very chill. But you're like, okay, my car's paid for in cash, my house is paid for in cash. What happens is that your earning capacity starts snowballing. Because if you don't have this car payment and you don't have a mortgage, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm only working 2 days a month for my normal expenses, and the other 20 I have now for going all in on investments, either with self or assets that I'll go over time. So step 5 is invest 15% of pre-tax income into stuff that's going to go up over time. Now, the way that I like to think about this is automate investments, frictionalize spending. So basically, you'll make it hard to spend, easy to save, easy to invest. And so I like to take the things that have to get saved, have to get invested off the top before I begin everything else, right? Now, I still would have another bucket there that would be education that I would invest in. So you're like, man, let's talk about the S&P 500. I don't know if I have the money for that, right? And to begin to do educational stuff, it's like, well, spend less. And if you're like, I can't spend less, you can always spend less, right? But you can still split it and say, okay, I'll put 15% pre-tax into investing. I'll put another 15% pre-tax into my education because that's going to increase your earning capacity. Because listen, as soon as you can replace what it cost you in education for that investment, everything else is gravy. It's like house money. And so like the whole goal of the first educational investment is to cover itself. Once that happens, like it's all doubling down after that. And that's my recommendation is like the day that you stop investing in your education and getting more skills is the day you decide that you don't want to make any more money than you currently are. By the way, this isn't investment advice. You can do whatever the hell you want. This is just me telling you what I told my team. So next one is a little money habit. Still underneath step 5 is you want to check your accounts daily. So this is something that I recommend for everybody who's basically before your savings goal. I stopped looking at my accounts every day once we crossed like 20 million. That was when I literally stopped checking every day because the volatility stopped making sense. It makes sense anymore. But you want to have a pulse for your money, and so you want to know what's coming in, what's going out. Like you want to feel that. And when you're looking at expense, like, that's a lot for me because you know how much that hits your account, and like that was a good inflow. You're willing to spend more in some areas that you're like, I'm getting returns there. But like you can't know that unless you need the account every day. You have that flow. So if you want to know something wild, so if you were 20 years old right now, and you do the thing that I'm about to tell you, it's going to sound insane, but you would have $50 million saved up at the end. So here's how it works. You take on an extra job. You work an extra shift. You make an extra $2,500 a month. That means you drive Uber, you go to your boss and say, I have more time. Can I do someone else's job, or can I look at other jobs and take portions of that for more pay? And a lot of times, if you just offer to work more, businesses will pay you more because they have more work to do. And so you can make an extra $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month. But if you made an extra $2,500 a month and you put that every single month towards just investing into the S&P 500, again, not SME, just S&P. All the other stuff we said stays, we're just doing this on top and we're not touching it. So then you would have 55 years of compounding at 9.7%. And let's say your starting amount was 0 and you're going to put $2,500 a month away. If you did that for 55 years, you'd have $52 million at the end. Like you'd be ultra high net worth. And so I say this because wealth is a decision. It's something that you can control, and it starts with spending less than what you make. It's about increasing your earning capacity, segmenting and paying off the things that are dumb to be paying for, locking in the negative compounding against you and blocking those so that you can start the positive compounding, developing the simple habit of saving something, then paying off smaller ones, then saving up bigger ones, then getting a little bit more on the offensive, restructuring house debt so that you can pay it off faster. Once you're there, then it starts snowballing. Then you go more aggressively into, you work the extra shifts, you invest in 15 pre-tax, maybe you invest another 15 pre-tax into yourself. If I had to pick between the two, bar none, not even close, I'd invest in me because your ability to earn more using money is going to always be higher than what the S&P 500 can even do. So let's say that you put $10,000 into the S&P 500 and it grows 10%, you have $1,000, great. Let's say instead you take the $10,000, and I said that working that extra shift, well maybe instead of shoveling snow, you buy a snowblower, and now the snowblower takes you from doing 3 driveways a day to doing 20. When you knock doors and say, hey, I'm going to snowblow your driveway for you, well, it's 7x your earning capacity. Will that make you more than an extra $1,000 this year? Yes, by a lot, by a long shot. And so the key is not thinking about what you can do passively with the money. Although I like having this understanding of it, especially in the beginning, it's about increasing your active income. So here's the craziest thing. That $52 million that you would have, that's being made by someone no matter what. Think about this for a second. If you didn't change your habits, you'd more or less make the same amount of money. But that 35% of the American paycheck is going to someone, and that someone is taking that money and putting it into something that compounds, and they're doing it for the entirety of your life. And so the question just comes down to, who do you want that $50 million to belong to? Do you want it to belong to the banks and their shareholders, or do you want it to belong to you? But either way, that money's being made. It's just whether it's going to be you who has it at the end. So the last step, just to be clear, is that you pay off your mortgage, then all of your basic living expenses are covered, your fixed costs are done, and now all of that unlocks even more investment into your long-term legacy. Now, this works really well when paired with the 30 by 12. All right, so 30 by 12 working challenge is basically you work 30 days straight, no weekends, 12 hours a day, and you don't take days off. Now, what happens is, now everyone's like, that's not sustainable. That's why I said 30 days, not the rest of your life. The point is that you'll realize at the end of 30 days that you can work harder than you thought you could. You can go a week or two without taking a day off, and you're not going to die. Because believe it or not, thousands of years, we didn't have weekends. Weekends are a new concept that's happened as soon as factories were invented. And I think it was a way to get even more something out of people. I can't even remember what it was. But the point is that if you stop spending all your money, and then you take all the time when you normally would spend money and then make money, you get a double. You reduce the negative and add the positive, and see how much damage you can do in 30 days. And then you can say, is it worth it for me to get what I want?
All right, let's dive into this. We're breaking down some serious advice from Alex Hormozi on building wealth.
From zero, right?
Exactly. We're talking about his YouTube video, If You Have Less Than $10,000 Saved, please watch this video.
That one's packed with good stuff.
It is. We're going to pull out the key takeaways, figure out how to break free from that debt cycle.
And build a solid financial base, even if you're, well, starting small.
You know, what really struck me up front was how Hormozi just lays it all out there about finances in America.
No sugarcoating.
None. He says the average American has a negative net worth. Pretty jarring to hear.
It is kind of a wake-up call. I mean, we see all this wealth flaunted everywhere, but
that's not the reality for most.
Right. And then he throws in this fact that even if you're earning minimum wage,
you can potentially earn, what, over $1 million in your lifetime?
Yeah. Changes the whole perspective. It's not about being stuck. It's about the potential everyone has.
It makes you wonder then why so many people struggle, if that's possible.
He really points to the financial choices we make and this idea of wealth as like a ratio.
Earnings to needs.
Exactly. It's not just about how much you pull in, but how you manage it.
That buy nothing challenge he talks about? No non-essentials for a while.
Sounds intense.
I think it's about resetting your habits, breaking free from those impulses.
He even did it, making $1 million a month at the time.
That shows some serious dedication to what he preaches.
It all boils down to that one rule: spend less than you earn. Simple, but
easy to forget.
Yeah. We get caught in that lifestyle creep. Income goes up, expenses follow.
Then you end up in a debt cycle before you even realize it.
And he's pretty blunt about how bad it is. 35% of the average U.S. paycheck just to pay off debt.
Crazy, right? Banks are making a killing off that, especially with those credit cards.
Makes you think twice about every purchase.
He uses that example of the $200 shoes. What if you invested that instead?
Compound interest. That could be, what, over $6,000 by retirement?
Yeah. And that's just one small purchase.
It all comes down to, well, opportunity cost. What could you do with that money instead of spending it?
This is where his advice gets really practical, right?
Yeah.
Tackling that debt, building a solid foundation.
He lays out a 6-step plan. Starts with that emergency fund.
He doesn't mess around with the amount either. 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
A real safety net. That way, life throws you a curveball.
You're not totally derailed financially.
He also talks about this distinction between personal risk and business risk. I think that's important.
Can you expand on that a bit?
Sure. Think of personal risk like walking a tightrope without a net below.
Risky.
That's living on credit cards, no savings. You're one mishap away from disaster.
Business risk is more like
a calculated jump, but you know there's a net to catch you if you fall. You can take chances, but you've got that security.
So by minimizing that personal risk, you're actually freer to take risks in business investments.
Exactly. You've got that solid base to work from, no more living on the edge.
And this leads into his ideas about eliminating what he calls risky spending, right? Buying used cars with cash, downsizing your housing if you have to, always looking for the most affordable options.
He challenges the way we see status symbols. Forget trying to look rich. Focus on building real wealth.
He has that story about showing up to an event and a beat-up car.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Which would you rather be? The person with the fancy car but drowning in debt, or
The one who's quietly building their financial security. It's a powerful message.
It is. He also wants us to consider, like, how much of our time we're trading for our lifestyle.
What do you mean by that?
That $600 car lease. How many days did you have to work to cover that? Makes you see things differently.
It really puts spending into perspective. Like, is it worth that much of my time?
Exactly. And that shift in thinking, that can change everything.
So it's not just about cutting back. It's about being more conscious of where your money, your time is going.
Absolutely. It's about aligning your spending with, your values and what you want to achieve long term.
And that brings us to investing, right? That's a big part of Hormozi's advice.
Huge. He says, aim for investing 15% of your pre-tax income.
But he's not just talking about the stock market, is he?
No, it's broader than that. It's investing in yourself, your education, skills, anything that makes you more valuable.
I love how he uses that snowblower analogy to explain it.
Right. Instead of just hoping your investments grow, you go out and buy a snowblower.
You take action, you create more earning potential.
And that translates into more clients, more income. You're not just passively waiting for returns.
That really shifts the mindset, doesn't it? But all this stuff, how do you actually make it a habit?
Yeah, that's the key. He suggests checking your bank accounts every single day.
Every day. That seems a little much.
I know, it sounds like a lot. But it's about awareness, taking control. You see where your money's going.
You catch those little leaks before they become big problems.
Exactly. You're not just letting things happen, you're actively managing your finances.
And to really solidify that active role, he throws out this challenge. The 30 by 12 challenge.
30 days straight, no weekends, 12 hours a day. Intense, right?
Not for the faint of heart.
It's not about doing that forever, but it's like a test.
To see what you're capable of.
Push those boundaries, Prove to yourself you can handle more than you think.
And that ties back into his point about time being such a valuable resource.
Oh, absolutely. The less you spend, the more time you free up. And then
you can use that time to earn more.
It's a beautiful cycle. Less spending, more time, more earning potential.
It's like this upward spiral.
And to make it all even more efficient, automate your savings and investments.
Take the temptation out of the equation.
You're consistently putting money towards your goals without even thinking about it.
Building that solid base, step by step.
Exactly. Creating a foundation you can rely on so you can pursue your goals with more confidence, more security.
I'm sure some people listening are thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but where do I even start?
Yeah, it can feel overwhelming, especially if you're starting from scratch.
Right. It's one thing to hear the advice, another to put it into action.
But the key is to personalize it, make it work for your own situation, your own goals.
So what's a good first step for someone feeling a little lost?
I'd say start with a self-audit. Really track your spending for a month, down to the dollar.
Get a clear picture of where your money's actually going.
You gotta shine a light on those spending habits. See where those leaks are.
The ones that drain your money without you even realizing it.
Yeah. And once you see them, you can plug them up, redirect those funds.
Hormozi's big on tackling debt early on, especially those high interest ones, credit cards.
Those are the worst. The interest just piles up. It feels like you're never going to catch a break.
So pay those down first, then you've got more resources to actually invest.
It's about building momentum. Every little bit helps.
He also talks about setting clear financial goals.
Yeah, it's crucial. You need that why. Why are you doing all this?
A house, a business, early retirement.
Whatever it is, that goal keeps you motivated.
Makes the tough choices feel worth it. Because in the end, it's a decision, isn't it? To prioritize your financial well-being.
It is. You're taking control. You're not just letting things happen to you. And it doesn't have to be all about deprivation either.
It's about finding that balance, making choices that fit your values, what you really want out of life.
Exactly. Building wealth should lead to more freedom, not less.
As we wrap up this deep dive, what's your final takeaway for our listeners?
Take some time to really picture your ideal financial future. What does that look like?
And what's one small step you can take today, right now, to start moving towards it?
It's a journey. Progress over perfection.
Every little bit adds up over time.
Keep at it and trust the process. You got this.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for breaking all this down with me.
My pleasure. Hope everyone listening feels empowered to take control of their finances. There's a lot of potential out there.
That's right. And remember, it all starts with a decision. So what decision will you make today?